Welcome to another edition of Rick and Bubba University, the podcast. When I say today is going to be action-packed, there is no exaggeration on my part.
Rick, we have a very special guest today. Yep. And we're going to really ask him what his qualifications are and what he's doing, because that has even become controversial lately. We've had him on the show before. You knew him once as a Rocket City redneck.
Yep.
But we love to call him Dr. Travis Taylor. Dr. Taylor, welcome.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Well, we got a lot. Engineer, best-selling author. You got PhDs in optical science, engineering, aerospace systems engineering, master's degrees in physics and astronomy.
You got a lot of wallpaper,
It just goes on and on. Past 25 years, let's run it down. You've been on various high-tech programs for the Department of Defense and NASA. You're the newest member of this highly skilled team that Bubba just talked about. And of course, then we've got you with Skinwalker Ranch, which we're going to talk about, and the different series of that. I think it's in the third season now. And then you've been on Ancient Aliens. You're going to be part of their live tour. You've written another novel. I don't know how we're going to get it all in.
Welcome back, Travis.
Welcome back, Travis.
Hey, thanks, guys. And it's Travis. It's not Dr. Taylor. I mean, hey.
Okay,
well, I had
good.
to introduce you.
Yeah.
Old Man Taylor's boy.
Yeah, my dad's son. That's right.
Right. From our culture, that's what it is. You know, Travis who? Old Man Taylor's boy.
So, Travis, let's just jump right in with 2 feet here, okay?
Yeah.
There's been a little bit of controversy surrounding you and what you do and how you do it. Let's set the record straight on that, then we'll look at some of the things you've done.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm sure with the controversy you're talking about, there are a lot of the sort of debunkers out there that no matter what evidence you put in front of them, that they're going to say, oh, well, it's weather balloons, it's swamp gas, it's light reflecting off of Venus, whatever. And I won't mention any names, like the Black Vault or, something like that. But actually, the Black Vault's been really good. It's other guys that have done it. But what I'll say is they first thing they've come out and says, oh, it turns out now that the chief scientist of the UAP task force was that guy from Ancient Aliens. No wonder, they kept saying it was not, the Chinese or weather balloons or whatever. They're saying it's UFOs. Well, but they don't bother to mention that Ancient Aliens wasn't my resume that I gave to the Defense Department to get into that. I was actually invited to be the chief scientist of the effort.
Now, let's talk about what that is exactly.
Yeah, so the UAP task force was originally the OSAP program, Advanced Weapons Systems, I forget a program. I forget.
But you're talking about unidentified aerial phenomena.
Unidentified aerial phenomena. Then it became ATIP, and then it became the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force that was mandated by the National Defense Authorization Act in 2019 by Congress. Well, it's really funny how it ties in. That all started actually back because of the Nimitz thing in 2004, and even before that in the 90s.
The Tic Tac
in
video,
2004.
UFO encounters.
But the biggest thing that spun it was in the 90s. Bob Bigelow told the then director of the program, Jay Stratton, who's come out and we know it was him now, said, if you really want to see a UFO, you got to go to Utah and go to this crazy ranch out there in Utah. And so he did, and they saw UFOs. And they went to Congress, said, hey, look, this is crazy. And they started looking into it. Well, all this time, this was unbeknownst to me. I was still in graduate school and working for the Army and doing my thing. But at the time, I was writing a book on how we would defend the planet if we were invaded by aliens. And the book was called Alien Invasion. But it was written as a textbook.
Good title. Yeah.
It was written as a textbook.
Yeah. Right.
And, when I first go out to Utah to film the first season of Skinwalker Ranch in 2019, in the middle of the summer, I was measuring some signals that I was worried might be bad guys doing some bad stuff. So I went to the Pentagon and briefed some folks that, hey, we need to look at this because it might not be aliens. It might be our near peers spying on us.
Right.
And when I did, a guy came in. I didn't know him at the time, asked everybody else to leave the room, closed the doors, and had a copy of my book, Alien Invasion, in his hand. And he said, Dr. Taylor, I'm Jay Stratton. I'm the director of the UAP task force. And this is very interesting what you're saying. And we've been looking at your book, and it looks like you kind of understand the approach we need to take. Would you come join the UAP task force? And it was based on my resume as 30-something years with the Defense Department, having the PhDs, the master's degrees, and actually studying the topic seriously. Had nothing to do with Ancient Aliens or any of that. And it was before Skinwalker had ever come out. We were still filming the first season. So that's how that got started, and that's how I got involved. And it has nothing to do with, the TV shows. But now the TV shows are a great opportunity to teach people to think critically.
Oh, yeah. I like that.
Oh, yeah.
I liked your approach on that stuff.
I do, too.
And we've talked about it on the air this morning.
Yeah.
So many of these shows where they're looking for Bigfoot or whatever, hey, I hear a noise, hey, a tree fell, all that. I like the fact you went out there, you started looking at various measurements and said, hey, we got an RF signal here. Any good ham radio operator knows you can triangulate that. Of course, you didn't know it was on the Z-axis. You're going up.
Yeah.
And but I love your approach to it, and we felt your anger when they call you in to investigate this, and you want to dig, and they go, "Oh, we can't dig." Well, why'd you call me? Right. I'm here to get answers. But anyway, we're with you on that.
Well, I appreciate that, and from even back at Rocket City Rednecks, and I talked with my dad, and I talked with Jay Leno about this. Is part of the reason for doing this is to get people to think critically, because they're not learning that in schools right now.
Let me tell you.
And it spills into every part of your life. It's not just science, it's finance, it's
absolutely
relationships, everything.
Voting.
You should be thinking critical.
Critical thinking has been escorted out of an entire generation.
Absolutely.
And that's sad.
Yep.
Because people who want to control you don't want you to critically think. Because they want you to take what they're feeding you and go with it.
Yeah. Well, there are so many situations in life where if you learned a process in another point of life, you can apply that to something else.
Yep.
I'll give a perfect example is learning a football play, for example. And so many people have learned football plays because they watch it on TV, but they don't realize that was based on classic warfare. And you're learning warfare tactics and strategy when you watch a football game or a basketball game or a soccer game, a match. They call it matches. It's not a game in soccer, right? But the point is
misdirection, screens.
Well, you think about
eye candy is a new term on it all.
Well, think about this. I remember talking about critically thinking, playing football, and in those days, the triple option was king.
Yeah.
When I played. Well, you know what they would do? They had something called the veer, where there was an inside veer and an outside veer. And I can't tell you the number of times sitting in the crowd you wouldn't have known it. Why did this play that was getting destroyed is now working? Because you changed from an inside veer to an outside veer. And that's it. That's the only adjustment you would make, and it breaks wide open.
Yeah.
So those kind of things, you're right. They don't even understand that you're seeing it everywhere.
Well, Travis,
absolutely right.
Back to the original point, I think maybe why people got stirred up, and I think it's ridiculous that they did, but I think they looked at you as lead scientist on that project, which we're funding. It's very important. And they say, why is a guy who's writing books, who's writing fiction, who's in TV shows and all these fluff things in that, but you can do both. I don't think you have to declare one or the other, right? I mean, that's kind of crazy.
And it's like push-ups for the brain. Right. Doing different things makes you more versatile and malleable to understand when you see something that you don't understand.
Right.
It gives you other tools in your toolbox to try and figure this out. And that's one of the things also. I had a colleague of mine I've known for 30 years, works for NASA, and he says, I don't see how you can do these TV shows and how you can actually go to work, because my colleagues would laugh me out of the room. They're not laughing at them now.
Right.
NASA's starting a new UAP team right now. And it's because, I'm not afraid to do the scientific method. There's no such thing in the scientific method about fringe science or settled science or any of these things. The scientific method doesn't say any of that. It says, do your homework, come up with a hypothesis that you can do an experiment to validate or falsify that hypothesis.
Test it, and you should be able to repeat it.
And then that's right. And that's what people are just there. That we've gotten this. I don't know if scientism is kind of what's the buzzword now, where people say, "Oh, it's science is why that is." Well, did you do the homework? Did you do the math?
Let's do it again.
Yeah, let's do it.
See if we get the same result.
Right. I'll give you a perfect example. William Shatner and I were having a conversation about a thing. It's really cool. I get to say stuff like that.
That is cool.
Shatner.
Yeah. So, and
did you say to him? I was talking to Rick and Bubba the other day just to see his response.
I'll do that next time. I promise you, I will do that next time. Just see what happens. But it was about Huxley's monkeys. there's this, you may or may not have heard the idea, but Huxley came up with things showing that evolution would be possible, right? That you could take a room full of monkeys and a room full of typewriters, and given enough time, they would they would type out all the works of Shakespeare. Well, so I make any students that come work for me, I make them solve that mathematically and tell me if it's true or not. The answer is no. In fact, I even let them not use a room full of monkeys. I let them use a modern computer that can type much faster than a room full of monkeys.
Right.
And it would take a modern computer like 1,000 times longer than the universe has actually existed to type at random an actual novel-based character, which is about how long all of Shakespeare's works would be. And so when you actually do the math, that doesn't work out, right? And so that's the kind of thing that I want people to understand. Look, we saw on the HPSI meeting the other day, the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, that Moultrie and Scott Bray presented this video of these pyramid UFOs flying over I think it was the Roosevelt. And
the aircraft carrier.
And they're saying, oh, well, we know this is drones. And because the light's blinking, and these pyramids, they're pyramid shaped because there's a bokeh effect in the camera that's an out of focus error. Well, so I took the videos and I did detailed math and science on it. And number one, it's not a bokeh effect. It isn't some autofocus error, but there's no aperture inside this night vision goggle thing that causes that. So number one, you're calling it the wrong error
or aliasing.
Yeah. Right. And then the blinking part of it, they say it's a drone because these are the aviation lights. So I did a detailed time-based analysis on how many times it's blinking per second and how long the blinks last and all this. It's blinking at 400 times a minute. The FAA law is the maximum is 100 times a minute for any aviation lights. So it's something else. Or somebody's got a drone and they don't know what they're going to get a ticket.
Right.
Out over the ocean.
Yeah, we'll come back. We're going to continue our conversation with Travis Taylor on this edition of Rick and Bubba University, the podcast.
This is the Rick and Bubba Show. Watch more at blazetv.com/Rick and Bubba. Rick and Bubba, Rick and Bubba.
All right, our guest, Travis Taylor. We've been talking about, first of all, your background and all the different things you've been part of. And really, if you look at it, the point you made to begin with, this stuff that I'm working on, it isn't a bunch of different stuff. Every bit of it, you've been called in to use the same expertise to see if you can use all the knowledge that you have and the gifts that you have to come in and help solve some of these things or to debunk them. So really, it's not, I can't believe you're doing those TV shows. Even on the TV shows, they're bringing you in because of your resume.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, so it really all goes together.
And Travis, in fairness too, another gentleman that lived in Huntsville, very successful, Dr. Von Braun. He was successful, but he also had a big personality and was funny, had a good sense of humor. And I think that's one reason that he rose to the ranks he did, not only for his science, but he also was good with people. And you are too, and that's one of the reasons you're successful in these other areas.
Well, I really appreciate you saying that. In one of the textbooks I wrote for undergraduates called Introduction to Rocket Science and Engineering, there's a chapter in it about Von Braun and why he was so successful. One of the keys to being a rocket scientist is you got to get your projects funded, and
that's a people skill.
And that's a people skill. And one of the things he did, he got on a plane in Huntsville and flew to Orlando and met with Walt Disney. And they had a conversation, and so Walt Disney started putting these little shorts before his Disney movies of going into space. And him and Von Braun sitting there talking about what they were going to do. And that got the kids interested, which got the parents interested, who would then in turn call their congressman and make sure we were still doing the space effort, and his budget continued. And that was knowing the big picture and how things really work.
Yep.
And that's part of all of this.
It all works together.
It all works together. And the TV is just giving me opportunities to go places where a lot of other folks don't get to go.
Right.
Well, plus, let's talk about Skinwalker Ranch. To me, when I started watching it, and I've been hearing about it, and you said it really came into your life long before you were ever on the show, someone mentioning it, is I'm sitting there, I'm going, I don't know about this. But then when I know that you're in it, and by the time you sit down and start talking about what we're actually going to do, the thing I like about your approach is you're a man of action. I cannot stand for people to sit around at a table and keep talking about something over and over again. And then finally, this is what I like about you. Can we get a plan together? So let's see if we can't debunk or figure it out. All right, I got that y'all seen all these things. I'm impressed by that.
Let's dig.
Let's get to work. Let's see what we can find. And so that's definitely what you were brought in to do on this Skinwalker Ranch. First of all, this ranch has been talked about for a long time.
Oh, well.
As long as there's been American history,
tell
there's
us,
been a story about
well,
it.
we've
Because the
actually
TV show,
found-
back to your point, is what got me interested in it. Without a TV show, I still wouldn't know about it.
Right. Well, that's what it is with a lot of folks. But I'll tell you, we found a petroglyph that's been estimated to maybe be 1,000 years old, showing the same kind of phenomena occurring 1,000 years ago, and the natives had written the story on a rock. And so this has been going on for a long time in that area, maybe as long as we can imagine. And not to get theological, but the angel Moroni came down to Joseph Smith and said, go to Utah, you'll find great riches. And they went to that area in Utah and started the LDS.
So it's been back all the way back into even the Mormon story.
Absolutely. And so this story is whatever's happening there has been happening for a long time. And when the Navajos and the Utes got into a conflict with each other, and one of them cursed the other side, and they said the Skinwalker was going to walk the ridge and keep them from crossing the border. I'll tell you, when they drive by the ranch, they still turn and look away.
They won't look at it.
Nope. They're still.
They want nothing to do with it.
They want nothing to do with that Skinwalker. Whatever the Skinwalker is, it freaks them out, and they don't want anything to do with it.
Okay, so we're going to move into that particularly.
Yeah.
Let's go there. The hill, we call it a hill.
Yeah.
The
mesa.
Mesa, they call it. It looks to me out of place there a little bit because so much of it is flat, and then you've got this sticking up. Is that a geographical thing there that's common, or because everything else is green and it looked like it didn't have any vegetation?
Well, if you look at the entire Uinta Basin, which kind of starts at Salt Lake City and then goes, it's like a 2.5-hour drive due east from Salt Lake City. And I'm talking about on a road that has no cops on it, so that can tell you how far away it is, right? So, but you get to where the ranch is between Roosevelt and Vernal, Utah, and it's at the bottom of this big bowl. And I believe this big bowl, the basin, was created probably 1 million years ago by a meteor impact, and that's what it looks like. And when you look at it on like Google Earth, and you zoom in, it really looks like this big gouge in the western United States out there, and so the geography and the geology out there is odd. It's really one mountain that looks like it was knocked down or torn down, or somehow there's it's caved in, fallen, and so there's mesas left and right. And it was at the bottom of the ocean at one point, or a lake, and you can see where there's it's like in Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner.
That's what it looks like.
How there's it looks like the dirt's been washed out around it. Dirt's been washed out around it, and there's a peak sticking up there, and the coyotes, going to be there to catch the Roadrunner or something. That's what it looks like.
Well, one of the things, so really you're kind of taking away one of the things I was thinking about, because when the show first starts, I'm still in the first season because I'm brand new to this.
Yeah.
So when the show first starts, I'd think, well, this is some kind of nuclear fallout. That's the end of this story, And I said, and it's because we know all the testing that we did, and that could drift that way.
So what episode are you on?
I'm on like episode 3.
Don't worry about spoiling it.
So
for us.
So I haven't got radiation sickness yet.
No. Well,
do you?
You went down. You went down into the hole.
I started to bring a Geiger counter to check you today, and I went out and forgot.
He really was. He was.
I've got the latest Chinese model. It's really good. Yeah.
No, the only thing I saw was when you started feeling sick when you went down in the hole.
Oh yeah, and let me tell you, them Utah folks. They give me such a hard time with my Southern.
Yeah.
Because, y'all know what being swimmy headed means.
Of course, I know exactly what.
They had no idea what I was telling you.
That's not a symptom they know.
They don't know swimmy headed.
I get it about 2:00 every day after we've got up at 3:30.
And of course, the caretaker of the ranch and the fact that his skull. And,
oh my goodness! Yeah,
and all that.
Thomas Winterton had a major traumatic injury to his brain, and they thought he was going to die.
Oh yeah, I'm already screaming at the TV, get out of there.
Yeah.
Okay,
well,
and I'm only 3 episodes.
Can you
in.
update us? Is he okay now?
Oh, Thomas is fine. It's really interesting though. He's really like a canary. If something is about to happen,
he
feels it like instantly.
He may be more sensitive.
He's better than those little yellow things they gave you.
Right.
So Travis, let's go back to
so
what
that was
Rick
my first
talking
thought.
about.
But now you're talking about stuff was happening even before that.
This area is directly in the downwind area of the Nevada test site.
Yeah.
We exploded over 1,000 nuclear weapons there. 100 of them were airborne or above ground.
That's right.
That place has to be just teeming with radioactive fallout.
Well, when you go back and do the math again, and you realize that it's been 60-something years since the last detonation, that most of it has decayed into safe levels.
Right.
And there are decay products that you know exactly what they are when you detect them.
Right.
Well, we've had a detailed analysis of every square foot of that ranch for radiation.
Saw that being done. Yeah.
Right? And so we know exactly what the background level is, and it's perfectly safe. And we can tell, this is a little bit higher than, say, in Alabama,
right?
But it's not higher than, say, Oak Ridge, Knoxville, right? So where they've done things like this, the background level is a little higher, but it's perfectly safe. Well, and so what happened to me was something that was really odd in that there were people as close to me as you guys, a camera guys, a sound guy, and then another cast member. And then suddenly my personal dosimeter starts going off and tell me I'm getting a pretty dangerous dose. Nobody else. Radiation doesn't work that way.
How about Thomas? Was he having any problems when you were?
Not that day. No.
The canary's not even going off.
That day, I know. It was really weird. And so I come out of, and at that instant, when my alarm goes off, we had 3 cameramen on me, and they were those, they're like $70,000, $80,000 cameras they use on these things.
Right.
And every one of them stopped working instantly, just like you flipped a switch.
Just like the drone guy.
Just like it happens. Stuff turns on and off out there. It's crazy. Well, out of all of our cell phones, one guy had a cell phone working, and so the head camera guy grabbed that cell phone and started filming me, looking at my dosimeter, trying to figure out what's going on. And I'm doing math in my head, thinking, am I going to die? What I need to do?
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And then after about 10 minutes, it's still going off, and I say, okay, we're evacuating the area. This isn't a joke. It's not a malfunctioning thing. And then they finally got the cameras. They changed out all the batteries, put new cards in them, and I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go back to my trailer, which is about a mile from where I got hit. And I said, I'm going to take all my clothes off outside the trailer, and I'm going to go in and take a shower, and I want you guys to go bag those up, and we'll test them later and see if there's something on my clothes. And then I want you to send a PA to the beer store to get a 12-pack of whatever beer. I didn't care. And they started laughing. I said, no, you got to understand. I need to start urinating right now, because that's what you have to do when you get exposed. And I'm following what the Navy guys do if this happens. And so I sat there and started doing that, and then within 6 or 8 hours, I started having burns form on my body.
Oh, my goodness.
And then I started having a headache and flu-like symptoms.
And at this point, you're drinking half a case of beer, so you don't care anymore.
I didn't care at that point.
So seriously, I hadn't got to that episode. We ain't got there yet.
Could the dosimeter tell you what type of radiation?
No, and I'm going to get to that because this is really cool. Except for
how big a dose did you get?
Well, so it was like if you were the X-ray worker at the airport, it was about 2 years worth of a full dose in about 10 minutes. And this was
radiation for sure.
It was absolutely gamma ray radiation. And I'm texting with my general practitioner real time because I work out with him. He's a buddy of mine. And I'm talking to him, said, telling him what I got, and he's like, dude, let me get an oncologist on here to talk to you.
Oh my goodness!
And I'm freaking out, at this point.
Get out of Skinwalker Ranch, Trevor. How many times have I screamed that? Tell me you're not sleeping there.
Every night. In fact, I'm going.
Don't go to the bunk.
I'm leaving Sunday to go for the next 3 months to continue the investigation. So
it's ongoing.
Yeah, so to make a long story short. The next 3 days, when I would go and take a leak, it looked like coffee.
Oh my goodness!
And that was my dead cells that my liver was cleaning out.
So it was straight up.
It was straight up radiation sickness.
But that doesn't seem supernatural. That seems.
But there was no source.
How did it happen?
We went back and there was no source.
The supernatural part is who threw the radiation on me.
Who threw the radiation at me, right. That's the sort. And here's the thing. So we put a sensor back out there that can tell you what kind of radiation it was. And we finally got a hit in the same place of similar spike of radiation. and it was radiation at for the geeks out there. It was 511 kiloelectron volts energy level, and what that means, it was created by an antimatter and matter colliding with each other and creating this energy. That's like the engine in the Star Trek Enterprise. They use matter and antimatter to collide to create the energy, and it was that kind of energy that was detected.
You're basically talking about the trail that they would use to try to find a cloaked Klingon vehicle because it was.
It's amazing you said that.
It was the exhaust pipe out of the antimatter engine.
So that is how I pitched this question to the team, and I actually I was at the University of Alabama Huntsville physics department. I was talking to the chair of that a few weeks ago, and I said, so I want to teach a class, and I want to come to the class first day with maybe undergraduate and graduate students, a mix, and say, so here's our problem. There's a Romulan warbird cloaked over the parking lot. How do we find it?
There's two ways.
Yeah, right?
Oh, wow. and you just did one. All right, we'll come back.
I'm going to tell you both ways. You tell me if I'm right or not.
Do you want to do that after we come back?
We'll come back from the break.
All right, we'll come back when we continue on this wild edition of Rick and Bubba University, the podcast. All right, well, look, you talk about we're trying to come up with a better way to do things. Did you know that our friends at Manscaped.com, they believe that they have put all the technology you can to come up with the greatest boxers a man has ever worn? It's the brand new Boxers 2.0 from Manscaped, and I'm going to tell you what, this has been researched, and what they're saying is at Manscaped.com, men and women are equal, but they are not the same. Every product you find there is designed for the way we were designed, men. And so, somebody can say, hey, I'm making boxers. If they don't know how we're built, they probably don't know what we need to be comfortable. And at Manscaped.com, they specialize in items from head to toe for men. And we're going to get you 20% off and free shipping by using the code BUBBA20 at Manscaped.com. They have even trademarked the pouch on these boxers so that that no one else can claim to be able to design the perfect pouch. And,
wow.
and I'll just leave it at that. So anyway, if you want to find out more, you combine this with the other products that we have. I just reordered. I just restocked on everything that I use from Manscaped.com. The Lawnmower 4.0 is the best electric trimmer that you need wherever you need to trim. I mean, it's even got a headlight, Travis, on the front of it where you can see where you're going.
So you can cut grass after dark.
You can cut grass after dark, or you can cut grass where it's always dark. Yeah. So anyway, and back to these boxers, the micro. The fabric that they're using keep them well ventilated. It's really like having, I'm cool no matter where I am. And for where we live right now, wow, now more than ever. So if you want boxers that keep you chilling, and it has the trademark pouch on it from Manscaped.com, we'll get you 20% off. Use the code BUBBA20 by going to Manscaped.com. All right, so Rick and Bubba University, the podcast, here we are with Travis Taylor. And when we took a little break here, I couldn't believe I'd been pulled into Star Trek, and we're now looking for.
It's a theory of Star Trek.
I was at Skinwalker Ranch, and now I'm in Star Trek because you were exposed to radiation, and when you found out what the source of that radiation was, it really harkened back to things that Star Trek was doing.
Travis, right. I'm going to answer your question. If there is a Klingon bird of prey cloaked in the parking lot, there's two ways we can find it. One is if it's moving forward and has an engine, it has to have a tailpipe. So we look for something it's outputting to power itself.
Unless it's propellantless, which they are.
And the other one would be that if it's there, it casts a shadow of some type, even though it may not be visually. And a radar signal that we would send to it, it could scatter out. But if there's a signal behind it and it pulls in front of it and we're looking at that signal, we notice the hole or the shadow that it causes, and we know right where it is.
So have you seen season 2 and 3 yet?
No.
Oh.
We just got to 3 where you knocked the hole in.
We flew over in a helicopter.
We're in season 1.
Now, that would work, right?
So
my theory on it.
We fly, so you see where we do the triangulation, we realize there's something
we
about
just finished
5,000 feet above.
We just finished that weather balloon.
Which we never found, by the way, and it vanished.
Okay.
It vanished off of the radar at 5,000 feet, which is so weird.
And never found it.
Never found it. And so we flew up there in a helicopter. And while we're above that spot in a helicopter, the collision avoidance radar goes off and says there's something 38 feet underneath us. And it started.
You couldn't see anything.
And we didn't see it. Nobody on the ground could see it. And it followed us until we left that area.
No.
And when we go back and look at the video that we were filming from the ground, something flew underneath the helicopter extremely quickly. That was, I'm guesstimating it to be about 30 to 40 feet long.
So you need
It's there.
you need an electronic signal that you can sit and look at that you're getting a clear reception of. And then when this thing goes in front of it, it's going to cause an electronic shadow.
In season 3,
Right.
These are all spoilers. For people
Now,
who haven't watched it.
which one are you going back now? Season 4?
Season 4, yeah. So I had
Don't
the
go back,
idea.
Travis,
I
I'm
had
telling
the
you.
idea that we could do just how they proved general relativity by looking at. So they did that in 1919. They went down to Antarctica and set up telescopes and watched a total eclipse. And as the stars were coming from behind the sun while it's during the eclipse, the gravitational pull of the sun bent the light and made the star appear somewhere else. And so we had a whole team of astronomers bring multi-tens of thousands of dollar telescopes out there to the ranch to watch as stars pass behind this anomaly to see if there's some sort of effect.
If it was being bent, you know something's there.
That's
causing
exactly
it.
right. And so now, do you want the spoiler?
Yeah,
Do you
come
want the
on.
spoiler?
Okay, we're here to solve
well,
problems, Travis.
Look, you're saving us a lot of time. I don't want to have to go to the ranch.
While we have 5 different telescopes working there, 'cause some of them are computerized and one of them is purely handheld, and the only camera on it's a cell phone connected to the eyepiece. Well, first, all the electronic, the computers on them, as they would turn, we'd pick a star and say, okay, that star is about to pass behind the anomaly. Let's focus on it. As soon as we'd say that out loud, we're looking in the computer. The name of the star vanishes from the database. I'm not making this up.
Don't come in here.
I am not making this up.
Don't come in here.
I am not
We
making
have
this up.
really large legs. You'll never be able to pull them. I mean, come on, Travis.
I am not making this up.
Come on.
And it did it multiple times. And these are hardwired systems, not connected to the internet. They're burned into a chip on the telescopes.
You realize what you're saying?
I do realize what I'm saying is startling. Somebody has the capability to reach into a
chip not tied to the internet.
A chip not tied to the internet and remove data from it real time while we're planning to use that data. Now, take it one step further. The guy goes over to the manual and says, well, we can do it by hand. And as soon as he turned by hand the telescope to that point, the camera, his phone camera, went completely black. He could push it out of the way, it would come back on, he'd pull it back to point at it, and it would go completely black.
Okay, let me ask you this, because batteries going dead appears to be a common thread in everything.
Yeah,
happening.
everything.
Absolutely.
Boy, you can't. It hates electronics.
Can we make a battery go dead in a laboratory? Can we
yes, we
do
can.
that? And how do we do it?
There you go.
Well, so there are several ways. One thing we test for spacecraft is we'll put it in a vacuum and we'll expose it to certain frequencies of radiation, and it'll cause a corona to form around it, and so it's always connected. So it's leaking constantly, and it'll drain.
You're draining it out
You're
by shorting it out.
Basically, you're shorting it out with a plasma. And so we know. So we build batteries for space in a way so they won't create that arc or that corona. So you can do that on Earth. You know, if not when it's real humid, it's harder to do when it's humid. You could put it near a Van de Graaff generator or a Tesla coil, and create a field where it
magnetic field would cause a
How we
corona.
used to erase carts.
Exactly.
How about this?
Demagnetized.
Here's what's blowing me away. Even 3 episodes into season 1, I'm already seeing that whatever y'all are dealing with, it's not like a phenomenon comes and we're all affected by it. It seems to be pinpointing when and who, and in certain scenarios when it wants to do it.
Absolutely.
That's what's weird.
And that's what Bigelow said.
So shouldn't it be affecting everybody just in random?
Bigelow's team said you'll think you're getting a handle on it and it'll change, and that's exactly what's happened to us. I would tell you this is very consistent. Probably won't be now.
So y'all did talk to Bigelow's team, even though he couldn't release the stuff he had.
Yes.
And just to kind of say, hey, let me tell you what to get ready for.
Let me tell you what his scientists said. We had asked him, would you guys come out and show us what you did? He said, we're not going back to that place. You couldn't get me back to that place.
But you keep going.
Yeah.
Well,
what's wrong with
I'm
you?
begging you not to go.
fortune favors the bold. There's an imperative here.
Fortune has killed many bold people. I just want you to know
certainly
that.
has.
Yeah.
No. Well, so here's the thing. This can't just stop at the fence line on the border of 512 acres, and there are people that live there.
And I saw that already early on when the guy, the Thomas who lives there, He said this is bigger than the ranch.
Yeah. And so this is it's dangerous, and people are getting hurt, and probably have been getting hurt for a long time. You know that area has the highest rate of gallbladder syndrome than any other area in the world.
It can't be good for your health.
It's one of those things. Somebody needs to solve this problem because it's hurting people, and it's a moral imperative. It's kind of
if it's that intelligent though to take a star that you mentioned out of the database of a hardwired EEPROM chip that's not connected to the internet, how you ever going to get on top of that? Because obviously it's way ahead of you.
I tell you, I have people from all walks of life come to me, psychics, whatever.
Oh yeah,
easy.
Shaman, whatever they are.
Let's stay in the science.
But they'll tell me all sorts of stuff like, you're not going to solve this with science. You're going to have to. This is bigger than that. Well, what it may be is that science isn't big enough yet. I mean, it's just the way I look at it.
Right.
I had my cousin said one time to me, and I think you just said it, and I didn't. We were stupid little kids. He was he was a smart kid. I remember the first time he ever said it. He said, "I want you to understand that nothing is impossible. It just can't be done."
Yeah.
And I went, what?
Well,
what he meant was,
yeah.
but one day what you're saying is impossible may not be. In your life right now, that you're saying this is impossible because right now it can't be done. Doesn't mean it can't ever be done.
That's exactly right. Just because we don't know how to do it, doesn't mean somebody else, maybe 1,000 years older than us, hasn't figured it out.
Well, let's look at Columbus. He's sailing across the ocean. He's using his sextant to look at the stars, and he's doing the best he can. The science to develop the F-22 fighter is here and existed. They just didn't know about it. They didn't know how to use it.
That's exactly right. All right, we'll come back.
And who's to say that's not out there somewhere too?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
All right, let's come back, and we're only got one more
I
segment.
know, Rick, this is pain and agony to have to end this too quick.
When Rick and Bubba University, the podcast continues. All right, so let's talk about earbuds. Raycon's everyday earbuds, we like them because they look great. They feel, comfortable in your ear. Some of this stuff, you're speaking of y'all talking about all these shows, I don't want to walk around like I'm a cyborg or something with stuff hanging out of my ears. The good thing about the Raycon earbuds is they fit discreetly. They're comfortable. They will not budge. Trust me. If you want to work out, or you're doing something, or maybe you're trying to solve the mystery of, Skinwalker Ranch, and you're moving around and you're climbing, they won't fall out. And, of course, they got 3 sound profiles to match what you're listening to. The noise isolation is great. That means I want to be in my own little world, or I need awareness mode. I need to hear what's going on. Travis may holler, hey, we got something over here. Come look. I need to be able to hear it. So Raycons give you 8 hours of playtime, 32-hour battery life, unless, of course, you're at Skinwalker Ranch. Then we don't know. But let me tell you, Raycons, you get the same quality audio or other premium audio brands, what they offer, but here's the biggie. About half the price.
That's the real biggie.
About half the price. So, and we're getting you an additional 15% off. So go to buyraycon.com/RickBubbaPod. All right, that's again buyraycon.com/RickBubbaPod. Get 15% off your Raycon order. That's buyraycon.com/RickBubbaPod for another 15% off. Bubba, here we are. I mean, we're 8 minutes left in this edition of Rick and Bubba University, the podcast with Travis Taylor. We've talked about so many things. We're in Skinwalker Ranch, and
Travis is going to have to come back. That's all there are to it.
Yeah, because you're also doing the Ancient Aliens thing, and there's a tour going on, or you've been on a tour.
Ancient Aliens Live. We've done several shows so far. We've got a lot more coming up in November and January and February. And it's me, Giorgio Tsoukalos, William Henry, Nick Pope, and David Childress from the show. And we actually do like an episode live on stage, and we talk about things and show some stuff. It's a lot of fun.
AncientAliensLiveTour.com if you want to see it, if it comes near you.
Back to the batteries, is there a way to shield those batteries so a corona or a magnetic field could not drain them out?
Well, I can tell you this. There's an instance that actually there's a couple of things that happen in season 2 and 3 where we're being affected by a signal, and it actually makes me catatonic for a couple of minutes, and it makes another guy fall down, start vomiting and retching and having epileptic
frequency
fits.
Range. What are we talking about?
Well, it's somewhere we were finding a signal at 1.6 gigahertz. And we have these grain silos there that are made out of corrugated steel. And I had the idea, because Dragon comes to me and says, we're getting you off the ranch, dude. You're not going to stand here catatonic. And I'm looking at my meter. I said, no, this is something happening. I got to find out what's happening. And he said, well, you said safety procedure works for you too, dude.
Yeah.
I said, all right, well, do this. before you take me off the ranch, let's try this experiment. Go lock me in the grain silo, and let's see if it protects me.
Faraday cage.
It's a Faraday cage, absolutely. Right. And we went in there, and as soon as I closed the door to the grain silo, it was like flipping a switch.
You were fine.
I felt fine. And to test it, I opened the door and walked out about 10 feet, almost threw up. Went back in, and we did about 3 or 4 times.
But you know that's not good.
It's a bit of the Havana syndrome that we're also seeing with some.
It's from what I've read about the Havana syndrome, what's happening out there seems very similar.
Right.
But you know it's not good for you to be exposed to something that's made you catatonic. You know that's not good.
I get that impression.
Right.
As you said,
that can't be right. It can't be good, right?
Yeah, Travis, you're kind of slow cooking, I think was the term you used.
Have you just blocked your medical doctor now so he can't even reach you? Because how many times have he texted, please come home?
Travis, can you
get several physicals a year and blood tests, everything.
Can you get in a metal suit like the guys that work on the power lines, the high voltage, and ground it out?
It's interesting you say that. I've actually they make underwear, T-shirts and underwear and baseball caps that are RF shielding protective, and so we have a lot of that out there. And sometimes we'll wear that. Sometimes we don't. If we always have a meter though. If it gets really bad and there's an alert that's going to be, we'll go get inside somewhere.
Can I ask you this? And we don't mind spoilers. Is the team still together? Has anybody left? Has anybody just said I'm out?
Enough.
Well,
I don't mean they've got other commitments. They just don't want to stay.
Nobody. Well, we've had some crew that have.
They just say I'm out.
Yeah, because it freaked them out. But Jim Segala left after the first season because he had a job commitment.
Yeah, that doesn't.
But that was different.
Yeah.
But we haven't had any of the science team give up because everybody's like everybody feels it's a moral.
So everybody's on board now.
Yeah.
We got to solve this.
Yeah.
And also another thing I wanted to ask you: why would Bigelow sell it? And why would anybody want to buy it?
I can tell you why, Rick. He paid $200,000 for it and sold it for $4.5.
Right.
Well, that's what the story is. That's what the story is.
Is that accurate?
It's not. I don't think it's completely accurate. But Brandon Fugel bought it from Bigelow because Brandon Fugel he wants to know the answer to the big questions.
So
and Bigelow got rid of it because him and a group of his friends, including his wife, went and spent a weekend or two on the ranch, and it was like 6 of them. And of the 6, this is secondhand, so I'm not going to say it's 100% accurate. But they came down with some kind of illness after that, and I think Bigelow was just kind of done with it. And then tragically, I think his wife passed away not long after that, and I think he just emotionally didn't want to have to deal with it.
But the
anymore.
new guy who bought it, because I'm thinking this isn't the same as me buying some good hunting land.
Oh no,
yeah. When he bought this, he knew I'm buying.
He was
trouble.
buying this to do the investigation because he wants the answers to the big questions.
All right.
And he's got the kind of jack to do it.
I know you guys were looking underground too, and you eventually got to dig and drill.
Yeah,
help me with that.
We've dug a whole lot now.
Don't dig.
Every time we dig, something weird happens.
So they were right about that.
It's really strange. We had this brand new DC-9 bulldozer brought on. I mean, brand new with GPS tracking on it. So if it goes dead, it immediately sends a signal and says, "Hey, somebody send a repairman to me." That's how awesome this bulldozer was, right? So as soon as it turns into the driveway for the ranch. The driveway, it's about a half a mile until you get to the gate, and then you come in the gate, there's another half a mile to where you actually are at ranch proper. Well, before it even got to the gate, the GPS system quit working. And then it comes on the gate and it parks right by my trailer. And we usually start somewhere after lunch time and go kind of through the evening, kind of like a second shift. And so I get up before everything goes on, and I'm working out right there by my trailer. I have weights and a karate bag, and I'm doing all this kind of stuff. And the bulldozer's right there, and I see Thomas come in on his motorcycle like 100 mile an hour, and he gets out, and the guy from the bulldozer are working on it. And I see they're using some expletives, and they pull this big battery out, and I hear the guy say, "This was a brand new battery an hour ago." He gets in his truck, drives, comes back, and I'm sitting there cooling off after a workout, and I see him come back, and they put another battery in this thing. Well, the brand new battery just went to the store and bought. So they start moving it out to where we're going to dig. They make one swipe with the blade, and the battery goes out. And now, let me tell you this. Thomas puts a voltmeter across the battery, and the word "help" comes up on the meter.
Don't say that.
I'm not making that.
Like
now you didn't do that. You didn't do that for
make
TV.
This stuff. You cannot
don't
make
do
it.
that.
We don't do one. That's one thing I want everybody to understand. Not one thing is made for TV unless it's something like this. we like, hey, what was that? And the camera wasn't looking at us. They'll ask us, hey, would you say it one more time so we can get that for the camera?
Right.
But it's never anything is made. Not one single thing is made up.
We have to stop.
I'm going to
It's
ask.
over.
Well,
It's over.
No, it ain't, Rick.
It is.
Can I propose an
can't.
idea to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is back porch thinking. You said something that hit me when you first came on, that valley looks like it was formed by a meteorite.
Yep.
Meteorite has iron in it and a lot of other
We've
things.
been looking for stuff for that.
From way out, we don't even know what all's mixed with it. Iron, radioactivity from those tests stretch, but could we be talking about a poor man's quasar that we've developed out there that's generating that power?
Well,
because we've never
it would
combined these things together before.
It would have to be spinning, and there's.
But I
nothing
mean,
spinning
from that school of thought that somehow that iron and that radioactivity is causing a natural RF phenomenon.
9th episode in season 3, we go through a great deal of that because we pull some metal out of the mesa, and it's got stuff in it that is not normally from Earth. So, hey, but real quick, I got to say, if you want to see a live feed camera of the ranch anytime. So we've got a new website. It's Skinwalker-ranch.com.
Okay.
And there's an insider button. You click on that. I don't know what the deal is to get in there, but just you fill out a form or something. But we have live feeds all the time, and we go on and chat with people.
Say it again.
It's Skinwalker-ranch.com. And anybody can join it, and you can see real-time cameras going, and we've had people already find things that we missed. So it's really exciting.
Can you carry Rick's brother, Greg, to the Skinwalker
Would you
Ranch?
mind taking him there if we send him?
I'm sure that I'll ask Brandon, but I'm sure they won't mind.
Okay. All right, good. Also, we'll let you know, and we'll talk about this another time. You got a brand new novel that's out called Ballistic, The World Held Hostage from Space. This is sci-fi. It's a novel, and only astronauts can save it. If you want to see Travis's latest novel, it is available wherever books are sold as well.
Is it really fiction?
Yeah, well, it takes place pretty much right now, so it's today's kind of technology.
Okay, so you can get that too wherever books are
Travis,
sold.
we got to have you back,
Travis,
man.
thanks for being with us.
Thank y'all very much. Thank you.
There's more to
Thank
come.
you.
We'll visit with you again. Don't you think any different. Travis Taylor, today's guest. Thanks to all of you too for joining us for this edition of Rick and Bubba University, the podcast.